So I think one option for a roadmap for masajid, for mosques in the United States, and we're talking about the professionalization of the masjid, which is important. So if we want professionalized outcomes and we want to have ihsan, to be frank, religiously, we have a commandment from the Prophet ﷺ to have ihsan in everything we do. Inna Allah kataba al-ihsan ala kulli shay. Allah has prescribed ihsan for everything. And he gave examples in that hadith that are like much less significant than running a masjid, right? So we have a moral obligation and Islamic duty to have ihsan in how we run our masajid. What is throwing people for a curve is that you're used to the government running the masajid in whatever country you come from, and now the government's not running masajid, so you need to figure out how to do it yourself. We have models from Islamic history from before the governments used to run masajid, like, for example, the waqf system, that takes care of the financial aspect. So it's really, really important. I'd say the most important ingredient is to have that finance taken care of, right? That you need to have an asset or assets that is generating income, and that is going to basically create your ceiling for what you can do. Right? So the waqf is not just like you establish it once and then you just sit back. No, you're going to continue to add to your waqf as possible, whenever possible. If you own 2 rental properties, then one day you might own 5 rental properties or 10 rental properties, or you might diversify. You might like own a business, or you might like whatever, or do some residential or some commercial, whatever it is, that the income that you're generating from your underlying assets, that is going to determine how much you have to work with. Don't ever think that the fundraising dollars are money you have to work with. That's not it. That's just paying bills. That's just like icing on the cake. The real stuff, we're talking about salaries, we're talking about capital projects and stuff like that. Like that stuff should be funded as much as possible, if not entirely, by the underlying assets and the income that they generate. Now, okay, let's say that you've got that under lock. What's next? So the very first thing that the masjid has to invest in, honestly, before even the building, is the imam. The position of the imam has to be professionalized. You want to be able to attract and keep a quality community leader. And that's maybe what we should call it. We should not even call it an imam. We should call it a community leader. That you want someone who is able to step in and not just execute programs, right? But develop the idea for programs, have relationship building with the community so that they know what programs are going to be relevant and important, know what's missing and what needs to be pursued further. Like you have to imagine, like if God forbid something happens, and some things do happen to mosque communities where there's an act of hatred or violence or something against the mosque community, you're going to send one person to go speak. It's got to be the community leader. Like that's who you want to hire. And you want to make that person comfortable so that they don't have to worry about doing a gig economy or doing Uber or doing anything on the side. You want that person's attention, maybe not on just the 4 walls of the mosque, because he might be doing stuff in the city, but you want it all to come back to the mosque. You want the mosque to derive the benefit from that person's activity. The next potential place, or let's put a roadmap, some different things that you could invest in. Certainly you need to have your finances straight, and that often involves hiring an accountant, right? So professionalize the finances. You don't want to be caught having bad books, and that's a very boring thing to invest in, but it's true. You don't want to have an amateur, someone who doesn't know what they're doing, running the books of the masjid. You would consider, I think, next, before investing in even like a social media team or anything like that, though that could be on the a priority at some point. Some mosques have experimented with EDs, with executive directors. And this, I think, is an important move for a couple reasons. One, that you're going to get people who are actually trained to do the thing that you want them to do. The imam or the religious community leader, he might be an amazing community leader, but he is not usually trained in nonprofit management. Managing a nonprofit and leading a community are 2 different things, usually. Leading a community has to do with your credibility among the people and with the value that you add to people's lives. The ED, the executive director, he's the one who's responsible for the organization, the structure. And those are two different things. In the best case scenario, they're going to complement each other. They're going to build out. It's like going to be one's the scaffolding for the other. The ED is going to create the structure and push, and do volunteer recruitment and do everything that has to happen in the masjid, social media, communications, work on policies, work on all this stuff, outreach, to make the imam's job just come in and be the leader, execute, right? So that's what I think, we have to be realistic. I mean, not every masjid has a ton of resources, but me looking at things from how I see it in my experience, I would say that those are definitely the priorities. And then from those hired positions, you can get everything else, or at least most of what you need, volunteer basis. I mean, it's nice to have a youth coordinator. It's nice to have a social media team or someone responsible for social media. It can definitely help with fundraising. It can definitely help with public image and public relations and stuff like that. But the absolute core team, I think you're looking at community leader, imam, and executive director, and potentially like a part-time accountant.